Hey, what's going on, everyone? And a big welcome to another video. So, in this video, I will be analyzing the game between Ian Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren that took place on Friday. It was game 9 of the World Chess Championship match. And of course, the reason for the delay in this video, if you watched the previous video, you would know, is that I was playing in a tournament myself. I was competing in Perth, in Scotland, the Perth Open and the Blitz tournament also on Saturday night. And I'm pleased to say I did well in both of them. I took 2 second places. So yeah, here you can see I came second on tie breaks and 3.5 out of 5. I won 3. I drew 1 and I lost 1 to the winner, where at one moment I had a winning position. To be fair, for most of the game I was slightly worse. Anyway, it is what it is. I boosted my rating. Now I am 1977. If I'm not mistaken, this brings me to number 6 in my country. My highest rating is 1979, so I'm getting back to where I was. And also I played in the Blitz, where I also, you can see here, I came second, 7.5 out of 9. My teammate in the Scottish League, Tushinsky, he came first with 9 out of 9. However, I did have a completely winning position against him, but I blundered. I was up a rook for 2 pawns, but I blundered a rook. And with 2 extra pawns, he beat me. So I could have came first here as well. Anyway, I'll get into the action because I know that you're here to watch the World Championship match analysis. So e4 by Nepomniachtchi, his favorite move by far. And the main move that he's played and in this match and throughout his career, he only had 1 game with d4 in this match. And Ding Liren played his main move e5 that he's played every single time he faced 1 e4, except the 1 game where he played the French defense. Probably that was a one-off weapon just to surprise his opponent. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the Spanish. So what Nepomniachtchi has played in every single game of this match on move 3 in this position. And Ding Liren here deviated. He did not play a6 and attempt to play the Marshal. However, he played knight f6, so the Berlin defense. The Berlin defense, which for those that don't know, was popularized in 2000 in the match between Vladimir Kramnik and Garry Kasparov, that Kramnik won and ended the reign of Kasparov in London. So knight f6 and here d3, which was not the choice of Kasparov in that match. He played castles. So d3 was the choice of Nepomniachtchi, more dynamic approach, which avoids the famous Berlin defense endgame. Just to show everyone, knight takes e4 is the main move. Bishop c5 is also playable. Knight takes e4 is the main move. Here, rook e1 is a very big alternative, but the famous Berlin endgame is after d4. Now, knight d6, hitting the bishop. Now there are other alternatives too, like d takes e5, taking on b5 and then a4, or other stuff as well. But here the main move is by far bishop takes c6, pawn takes, d takes, knight to f5, and now there are other moves too, but this is the main position of the Berlin defense. And black has the bishop pair, white has the better pawn structure, and this is a very well analyzed position from both sides. So d3 was the choice of Nepo, bishop c5 by Ding. The main move also possible is to go d6 as well, and there's also a cool opening trap after knight e7 that you cannot play knight takes e5, and the reason is after c6 the bishop moves, and after the bishop goes to c4, for example, then queen a5 wins the knight. So this is a cool opening trap that you need to be very careful about if you play the Spanish. So d3, bishop c5, c3. The alternative is bishop takes c6, and dc6. This is also possible. Another possibility is castles, allowing knight d4 and takes, and supposedly, sorry, after castles, yeah, knight d4. This exchange supposedly gives black the chance to equalize because the knight on c6 is relatively bad, and now they can hit the white bishop by going c6. However, white does have some ideas even in this position. But anyway, c3 was played, stops knight d4, castles, and now d5, striking in the center. Principled play by Ding Liren, and knight d2, and now d takes e4 was played. Not the only move, but d takes e4, d takes e4, and now a5, stopping any expansion on the queen side that white might have wanted to do with b4. And now a4 from white, queen e7, queen c2, and knight b8. Okay, the knight goes back, but c6 is clearly on the cards now. Rook e1, offering additional support to the pawn on e4. Rook to d8, h3. h3 can be a useful move in the Spanish for white because it stops any bishop g4 ideas. And here h6, knight f1, c6, hitting the bishop. Bishop goes back to c4, knight a6, knight g3, queen c7. Okay. Bishop a2, b5. Okay. Queen e2, rook b8, defending the pawn on b5 that the queen on e2 was attacking. Knight h4, a typical maneuver and a typical idea for white in the Spanish is to bring the knight into f5. Bishop f8, a prophylactic move. Queen f3, takes on a4, and now bishop takes h6. Of course, if black takes on h6, then white will take on f6. So instead, knight c5 was played, knight g6, taking advantage of the power of the light squared bishop on the long diagonal, because the pawn cannot capture the knight. It's pinned, it's illegal. This is an absolute pin. And yeah, I have said many times that the light square bishop is white's best minor piece in the Ruy Lopez and also in the Italian game. So rook takes b2, grabs this pawn, knight takes the bishop, rook takes, bishop g5, knight h7, hitting the bishop, bishop c1, rook b5, bishop a3, rook e8, bishop c4, hitting the rook, and now bishop e6. So this was an interesting exchange sacrifice taking place. However, white did not go for it. They played bishop e6 instead. Knight takes e6, knight f5, c5, queen e2, rook b3, queen c4, queen c6, bishop c1, knight f6, queen a4, exchange of queens, taking on c3, bishop b2, taking on e5, rook b4, rook a5, rook e4, exchange of rooks, rook a4. Now this position might look equal. However, what white is playing for here is very simple, is to win the pawn on c5 and then try and do something with their extra pawn. So knight d4, and black decides to give up the pawn, hoping that they will hold this position, and they manage to succeed. Here, of course, the trick is if f takes g3, rook takes e3, and the fact that the pawns get doubled makes it even more drawish. Of course, there are chances. Here, okay, knight takes f5. I'm not sure. Probably these guys know their endgames, but I would be worried having this position as black. At least that's my first instinct. I would be worried. Probably it's still a draw though, because the two f pawns, they hold the f and the g pawn, and the h pawn by itself is not enough. Still, of course, worth playing. I mean, you have absolutely nothing to lose if you play on these kind of positions with white and you try to grind your opponent. Offers a trade of rooks, and of course, after a trade of rooks, it makes the defensive task easier. Having said that, there are chances because knight endgames can be very similar to pawn endgames, because zugzwang is common in the knight endgame, because knights are short range pieces and not long range pieces like the bishops. So even exchange of rooks here is definitely worth trying because there are chances with the knights. And in a king and pawn endgame, if you remove the knights, then white's chances for winning this are quite high. So okay, many moves followed. After f5, king f3, the intermediate move. I've said many times how important this is. Rook e7, offering a trade of rooks, and black insisted on the trade of rooks. However, after knight e5, they have some problems to solve because their pawn on g6 is now under attack. g6 was played, h4 from white after a long think, taking on h4, a king f4, h3, g takes h3, king e7, knight king f6, knight d4, knight goes there. Of course, if white takes on f5, black will take on f2, sealing the deal. That is going to be a draw. White tried f3. There are chances even in this position. For example, here, if black, okay, it's impossible, but if it was white's turn in this position and they could go knight f4 and swap off the knights, then that would be a winning position for white after knight f4 with the extra pawn. So yeah, still there's tricks to be careful of, but Ding Liren successfully managed to hold this. I'm just going through the moves. Nepomniachtchi tried, and of course he did the right thing, because you should always make your opponent work for the draw in these kind of positions where you have a tiny advantage and you should always play on. But after the exchange of pawns, obviously this is going to be a draw because next move he wants to simply go knight takes h4, and of course after h5 then thousands of ways you can draw this. I mean, very simple would be also to come here and attack the knight, and now if the knight moves, you take the pawn, and if the knight doesn't move and you go there, you can just take, and after here, you just come back, seals the deal. So, okay, this game ended in a draw. It was a very interesting game in the Berlin. It was the Berlin with fourth move d3, not the Berlin endgame or the castles knight takes e4, rook e1 variation of the Berlin. So, okay, Ding Liren achieved his goal, which was to make a draw with black. However, Nepomniachtchi still is leading the match by 1 point. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and if you are a subscriber, I will catch you at the next video. Bye for now.